This was the aircraft that was considered Britain's identity during World War II. The Supermarine Spitfire was an excellent fighter plane, loved by pilots for its speed and agility, and known to the public as the machine that won the war. However, in reality, this plane suffered from a major problem. The issue was that the plane's engine would shut off at the exact moment it engaged in a dogfight with a German pilot, especially when it was put into a nosedive. On the other hand, the German Luftwaffe's Messerschmitt Bf 109 fighter plane had no such problem. Because of this, German pilots often dominated British pilots during battles. Britain won the Battle of Britain with great difficulty, and one of the biggest reasons was this engine issue in the Spitfire. If Britain wanted a clear victory in the rest of World War II, it was crucial to fix this strange problem with the Spitfire. They tried everything, and even major engineering firms attempted to resolve it, but no one could fix the issue. Finally, a solution was found, and that too by someone from whom no one expected it. A woman named Beatrice Tilly Schilling. What did this woman do to the Spitfire that made her responsible for the Allies winning World War II? Welcome once again to a ASTV video, dear viewers. The problem with the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine of the Spitfire was first identified in 1938. At that time, it was not considered a major issue because before World War II, pilots did not perform deep dives very often. But by 1940, when the Battle of Britain was at its peak, this was no longer just a technical problem. It was a matter of life and death. An even bigger issue was that before World War II, the British government had already produced over 20,000 Spitfires, meaning all these planes had the same problem since they were equipped with the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. The seriousness of the matter became apparent when the British realized that the Royal Air Force, RAF, also used other fighter planes, such as the Hawker Hurricane and the Bolton Paul Defiant, which also had the same Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. Now in the heat of World War II, the Allies' most significant historical air force was forced to fight using planes with a defective engine. In 1940, during World War II, Nazi Germany was fighting against France and Britain. Whenever the Germans entered Allied airspace with their Messerschmitt Bf 109 fighters, the RAF countered with Spitfires. To avoid enemy gunfire, pilots used advanced maneuvers such as quickly diving down or pulling the aircraft up suddenly. These were common tactics in World War II. Pilots could engage in dogfights for hours, sometimes diving to evade enemy bullets and sometimes pulling the nose up suddenly to get the enemy plane in their sights and fire. Now, imagine if during these life-or-death dogfights, a pilot's engine shut down. What would happen? Fortunately for the British pilots, they had a home court advantage during the Battle of Britain. Their fuel supply was nearby, allowing them to fight for hours. In contrast, German pilots had to cross the English Channel first, engage in battle, and then return to their base for refueling. This was a disadvantage for the Germans, which might explain why they couldn't completely overpower the defective Spitfires. The Battle of Britain eventually ended, but World War II was still ongoing. The Spitfire's strange problem mainly occurred when it went into a nosedive. When an aircraft falls rapidly in a free fall, anything that is not firmly fixed, such as the blood in a pilot's body or the fuel in the engine's carburetor, does not respond to gravity in the usual way. Instead of moving downward, it moves upward. Unfortunately, in the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine's carburetor, the fuel outlets were positioned at the bottom. So, when the aircraft made a rapid nosedive, the fuel in the carburetor moved upward, away from the outlet. During this time, the engine did not receive any fuel, causing it to either shut down completely or stutter until the aircraft leveled out again. The best minds of the time were assigned to fix this issue, including Rolls-Royce's Sir Cyril Lovesey and the Royal Aircraft Establishment's RAE A.D. Fisher. They came up with highly technical solutions, but both failed completely. Worse, their solutions created new problems in the aircraft. To understand this problem, deep knowledge of the engine's internal mechanics was necessary. That's why it was astonishing that in 1940, the final and best solution came from a woman, Beatrice Tilly Schilling. Back in 1938, when the first production test flights of the Spitfire were happening, Beatrice Schilling was busy rebuilding and testing her favorite machine, a 490cc Norton motorcycle. This was the same bike on which she became the fastest woman to ride a motorcycle at the Brooklands racetrack. Schilling was an outstanding racer but an even better engineer. She had been passionate about motorcycles since childhood. Around 1919, when she was just 10 years old, she saw her sisters going on bicycle trips, but she was always left behind. Determined to change that, she started saving money to buy a motorcycle. By the time she turned 14, she achieved her goal by purchasing a 2-stroke Royal Enfield. Gradually, she began fixing problems with her bike herself, and soon she was skilled enough to disassemble and reassemble it completely. By the time she was 15, she had decided that engineering was her true career path. However, there was a major problem. It was the 1920s, and at that time, society did not even consider the idea of women becoming engineers. With the help of the Women's Engineering Society, Schilling enrolled in the Victoria University of Manchester's Department of Electrical Engineering in October 1929, becoming the first female student ever admitted there. Later, she also took courses in thermodynamics and mechanical engineering, which were her real areas of interest. She was not just an engineer but also a racer who competed against men at the Brooklands track, all because she had made modifications to her 490cc Norton's carburetor, increasing its power and acceleration significantly. At the time, she had no idea that this same skill would later help solve the biggest problem in Spitfires and Hurricanes during World War II. Before World War II, Schilling had already spent 3 years working at the Royal Aircraft Establishment. Initially, her job was only to write technical documentation, but by November 1939, after several promotions, she had become a technical officer, responsible for research and development of carburetors. When Rolls-Royce engineers failed to fix the Spitfire's problem, Schilling sought permission from the authorities to work on a solution. Initially, many underestimated her because she was a woman, but astonishingly, she solved the problem in just a few days. Even the authorities laughed at themselves when they saw how simple her solution was. So, what exactly did she do? Schilling designed a small brass restrictor plate with a precisely measured hole and installed it in the carburetor. This simple modification significantly reduced the issue. The biggest advantage of this solution was that the brass plate could be installed while the aircraft was parked, meaning it didn't take much time. The next challenge was to install this solution across various airbases. For this task, Schilling used her Norton motorcycle, traveling to different bases and personally installing the fix in Spitfires and Hurricanes. Her solution was so successful that it became known as Miss Schilling's Orifice. Later, she completely redesigned the Rolls-Royce Merlin carburetor, permanently fixing the issue. After World War II, pilots credited Schilling's ingenuity for their success. For her contributions, she was awarded the Order of the British Empire, OBE. Even after the war, Schilling did not leave engineering. Instead, she worked on advanced military projects, including rocketry, ramjets, and guided weapons. By 1955, she had been promoted to Senior Principal Scientific Officer at the Royal Aircraft Establishment. Beatrice Schilling was not just a mechanic or an engineer. She was a remarkable figure who opened doors for women in engineering. Even today, it is widely believed that if she had not been there during World War II, the world map might have looked very different. We hope you enjoyed this video from ASTV. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe and leave your valuable comments. Thank you for your love and support. See you in the next amazing video.